Okay, so we're about to begin chapter 2. Let's do a little recap of where we are so far. Chapter 1 essentially was a description of the way the Rambam describes the human condition, and essentially divided the human condition, the human soul, the nefesh, into 5 parts. And they were the digestive system, the 5 senses, that was number 2, sensitive. 3 was imagination/memory. Number 4 was my drive, the appetite, the drive, the desires. That's where emotions live. And number 5 was the intellectual capacity. And he described each of those in detail and the various different components, making those different parts up, and then concluded, and he also began with this actually by saying that the soul is really one, and it's uniquely human, and even parts of the human experience that are shared by other species, say digestive, it's still uniquely human because it's part of the human experience. So that's where he is right now. And now he gets into describing of these 5 categories, what are the categories you can control and what are the parts you can control. And then when he gets into what you can and what you can't control, he'll get into what are the parts that you can gain mastery over, what are the parts of it that you can upgrade, and what are the parts that if you don't take care of them will downgrade. And that's kind of putting the framework onto what he gets to in chapter 3. And then chapter 4, more specifically, going forward, is building moral character in terms of refining one's character and emotions and attributes, as we shall presently describe. So let's begin chapter 2. Da, you should know. Shavedis va mitzvahs, sins and mitzvahs, sins and commandments, ha-Torahs, which come from Torah, only exist in 2 out of the 5 components or experiences of the human soul. And they are, that is the sensitive part, my part to be able to touch, see, smell, taste. There are mitzvahs regarding that. Don't touch this, do touch that, pick this up, don't pick that up. But likewise, and likewise with realm of my appetite, my lust, my desires. You shouldn't want that, or you should want that, or control the want for that, things of that nature. So this is where mitzvahs and averos fall in. This is where sins and commandments fall in. There's no commandment for how your digestive system should operate. You don't have control over that. As he says, the part of me that's consumption, the fact that the eating, the system of my human body, and the imaginative, or the memory, a mitzvah boy, there's no commandments, la avera, and no sin. Why? She'en ladas, because there's no knowledge of chira be'echad me'shneim. Ma'aseh klal, there is no free choice in their action. Now here, at this point, there's a question raised by some of the commentaries and disagreement, which is in the imaginative section. The imaginative section you described before as the capacity to take memories and information that a person already has, comprise it with other information, deconstruct other memories and combine them with other memories, which essentially is a big part of your own thought process. Now he says here that a person doesn't have free choice with that. But seemingly, you do. You can decide what you want to think and what you don't want to think. And indeed, I saw the Yaakov Emden comments in saying that seemingly a person does have the free choice, and if there are such sins, a person shouldn't think, even in imagination, imagining negative thoughts, imagining the enjoyment of sin is something that itself is a sin. But nonetheless, the Rambam still maintains that a person doesn't have free choice in that regard. Now, I was trying to think of what he means. Let's keep on going, finish this whole sentence, and I'll tell you what I think maybe he means. Okay, so continues. A person cannot choose to stop their function, or to slow down their function. One of these 2 things. You can't choose to turn off your digestive system or to speed it up. So slow it down, stop it, cancel it. You can't do any of that. And likewise, in Rambam's view, you can't stop your imagination from running. And his proof is, you'll see, these two parts of your experience, the digestive system and your imagination, the digestive and the imagination, you'll do it even when you're sleeping. And this is not true of the rest of yourself. So your intelligence isn't necessarily working during sleep, and my appetite for things I want and don't necessarily operate when I sleep, but my imagination is running. I have dreams, and my digestive system keeps on running when I'm sleeping. And this is the Rambam's proof that you don't have free choice. Now, the person who asked the question earlier, Rabbi Yaakov Emden, who asked, seemingly you do have choice about your imagination because you're not supposed to imagine sin. In fact, the context in which our sages say that is with respect to dreams. Our sages say one should not think of sin during the day lest they dream of sin during the night. There's a whole, in Tanya also talks about it, in chapter 30, talks about this, how a person's dreams are reflective of his inner state, of what he cares about and what he thinks about. So it remains wanting to understand what does the Rambam mean here, that a person does not have free choice in this regard. And it would seem as follows, and this is, I think, the way the Rambam writes it here is, there is no knowledge or free choice in one of these two regards. A person cannot willfully or knowingly to undo. Levatal means to cease, to stop their actions, or to stop them and pull achas in one of their things. So I think what he means to say is, you cannot stop yourself from thinking. You're always going to be thinking. It's true that you have free choice about what to think. And that might be classified as part of the intelligence part of the soul, which later he will describe. You do have free choice about that. But the fact that your brain is constantly running with thoughts, perhaps that's what he means, that you can't stop that. Now you might say, well, I can't stop my fingers from having sensation either. I can't stop my ears from hearing. That's true, but the Rambam says two things. You have no free choice to seize their existence, or to slow them down from doing their actions. And when it comes to touching, you can. You cannot touch something, or you cannot eat something. You cannot taste something. You cannot smell something. You can choose not to look at something. You close your eyes. But when it comes to these two things, you cannot turn off your digestive system and you cannot turn off your imagination. It's true that you can choose what food goes into your digestive system, and you can also choose which thoughts will go into your imagination. True, but you cannot shut down the imagination itself, and you cannot shut down or even modify your digestive system itself. This is the way that Rambam frames it. And therefore, it would therefore mean that the areas in which the Rambam says you have free choice, namely, as I'll go on to say, in the intellectual part and in your emotional part, it's not just a question of controlling it like it is with regard to, say, your imagination. You can control what you're thinking about or choose to think about something else. But rather what he's saying is you have the capacity to actually change your very emotion. You have the capacity to actually change your very way of thinking. Now, the intellectual part, changing your intellectual view of the world, that's not going to be a discussion of this book because it's about building more character here. But nonetheless, it would seem to me that the Rambam maintains that in the areas where you're given free choice, it's not just a question of free choice in acting or not acting, but it's actually a question of free choice in terms of the inner system. You can change the inner system of your emotions. You can change the inner system of your intellectual workings. And not just think about that versus think about this, or eat this versus not eat that. I hope I'm being clear. And the reason why I'm saying this is because as we'll go forward, we'll see Rambam is going to tell us a way in which a person can actually modify and change their actual very emotions, change their, how heated they get, or how calm they are, or how generous they are, to actually change that very nature. Whereas in Chassidus, it talks a lot about this idea that you can't necessarily change your animal soul. You can temper it, but you can't really change it. And a big focus in Tanya is not so much on changing your nature, changing your animal soul, but rather on controlling it, even though by nature you are attracted to X, Y, and Z. Control yourself. That's a big part of Tanya. Whereas the Rambam seems to be saying that's not enough. You need to actually temper your emotions to the point that they are changed. And likewise with the intellectual faculty, but the intellectual faculty is not going to be the subject here. Now, if that's the case, when he says you're free choice, it's not just a question of do or don't do, but actually a question of the free choice to be able to change your very nature. And that would explain why he says the imaginative and the digestive you can't change, because you cannot stop the fact that your brain is constantly running with imagination. You can't stop that.
Is he going to tell us how we can change our emotions?
Sorry, yes, that's going to be the main subject of this entire book.
Okay,
this is all context for that.
Because I don't see a huge difference between emotions, feeling emotions, and your imagination. Anyways, let's see where he goes.
Okay, he's going to get into that. Yes, it's a good question.
Where he goes.
It's a good question. The difference between imagination and emotion. It's a good question. He's getting into it, but this is all the context in which he's framing the issue that a person can change their emotions eventually. And that's what he's trying. That's where he's going to go to in the later chapters.
Okay.
But anyway, this is my suggested understanding here that when he says a person doesn't have free choice in their imagination, it's not just a question of what to think about and what not to think about. That for sure you have free choice. It's a question of being able to stop or modify the fact that your brain runs wild and thinks things. You can't stop that. You can't change that. The content in your mind that you can change, but you cannot change the fact that your mind is constantly running, which is what he would call the imaginative. And likewise, in the same way, you can't change your digestive system. You can't stop it. It just keeps on running. And that's what he means that they still operate during the nighttime. Even if at night you're having only good dreams because you've made yourself think about good things all day and so you have no sinful dreams, that's all fantastic, but you're still not controlling the very imagination because your brain is still running wild. It's just still going. Whereas when it comes to the way in which the person's intellectual capacity works and the way his emotions themselves operate, that the Rambam does maintain you can change. And the emotional is going to be the subject of this book, as we shall see.
That's why it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to tell me that if I'm feeling really happy, I can not feel really happy. Like I can so it never comes out. Not that I'm feeling really sad.
Yeah.
It's sort of like it's beyond me sometimes, right?
Yeah. So it's not.
So it's going to be interesting to see what he says.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but he's not going to give like on the spot remedies.
Yeah.
Even though Tanya does do that sometimes, but here he's going to give like long-term exercises and how you can deal with that.
Okay.
That's what he's going to be doing here.
Okay.
So but when it comes to the intellectual capacity, there's some confusion. And he's saying confusion in terms of whether or not there's, sin and commandment, right? He started off by saying that sin and commandment in Torah is only in the sensitive, eat, don't eat, touch, don't touch, and the appetitive, control what I want or be attracted to something that I should be attracted to. Whereas the intellectual, there's some confusion. But I say, says the Rambam, there is sin and mitzvah even with respect to the intellectual capacity, which is lefi emunais deis batel, whether a person takes on wrong faiths, essentially, or emunais das amiti, or true faiths. But there is no action. Which you would say, sham mitzvah, there's a sin, mitzvah, or you have sham aveda stam, or there is some sin. It's too generalistic. It's like overarching your view of the world. Do you believe or you don't believe? You have faith or you don't have faith. So it's not like a particular item, which is this is a mitzvah, this is a sin, and therefore he's not putting the intellectual capacity in the category of sin and mitzvah, but it's still in the realm of free choice because you can't choose not just what you understand, but the way you understand things also, although that's not the subject of this book, but that is something that the Rambam maintains that a person can change. But and for this reason, just because over here we're talking about specific commandments and specific sins, therefore I said earlier, that's why I said that only in the sensitive and in the appetitive, those are the two parts that are actually specific things. Eat that, don't eat that. Stay away from this, go towards that. There are specifics, and therefore he puts sin and commandment in those two categories rather than the intellectual, even though the intellectual also has free choice. And in the intellectual part, you also can control, change, and modify, but that's not the subject of this book. However, now, there are two sets of virtues. So now he's moving away from commandment, sin versus commandment, which are specifics, do, don't do. Now he's talking to virtues. Virtues are beyond mitzvah or commandment. They're acquired parts of who I am, parts of my personality. And in some way, one might argue from the Rambam's perspective that sin and commandment themselves are, I don't want to say means to acquiring virtue, but in some degree they are certainly mediums through which a person acquires virtue. Certainly a mitzvah and staying away from sin in and of themselves are, this is what God commands and that's just what it is. But to some degree, from the Rambam's writings, it emerges that the commandments and sins are a way and pathway by which a person acquires virtue. Now, in the realm of virtues, there are two sectors within virtue that a person can try to achieve. And they are Milas Hamidus, virtues of character, of moral character, of emotional virtue, Milas Sichlius, and virtues in the intellectual realm. Those are the two realms of virtue that a person can attain in his lifetime. See, again, this further solidifies what I was saying earlier, that, like when he said that a person doesn't have free choice in the imaginative, he wasn't saying that you don't have the free choice to think about what you want. Well, of course you have the free choice to think about what you want. But there's no virtues to be acquired in the realm of imagination. There are virtues to be acquired in the realm of intelligence. Better understanding of things, deeper understanding of things, being able to understand loftier ideas. But the imagination that's constantly running, there's no virtue to be acquired, to be had. It just is. It operates. And, that further kind of points to what I was saying earlier, that the free choice he's talking about here is not just a question of do and don't do, but a question of choice and being able to advance and acquire and change and modify one's inner working. And therefore, in that regard, there are two virtues that a person can acquire: moral / emotional, character building, and then there's the intellectual. Ukanegdam, and then in opposition to virtues, they're also to, the opposite, negative. Person who has the virtues or person who has the opposite of virtues. He has good character or bad character. He has a good intellectual system or bad intellectual system. Now, on the Milas Asichlius, when it comes to the virtues of intelligence, they belong to the part of the soul that is rational, the intellectual part of the soul, which we described in the first chapter. Now, amongst them, he identifies three. Mehen, they are as follows. Number one, hachachma, wisdom. What's wisdom? It's knowing the close or direct and indirect causes. After knowing some item, of which he is analyzing or trying to understand their reasons or causes. So in other words, there's some item and then you understand what are the causes of those things. So a simple way of putting this is, part one of the intellectual system is knowing the facts. This is what is, this is what isn't, and these are the reasons why it causes this to be it, and these are the reasons that it's not it, or whatever it happened to be. So knowing the facts, information. Number two, and then there is the part of the brain from which there comes theoretical analysis. Now, he's not talking about the theoretical analysis itself. He's talking about the rationale from which theoretical analysis comes from. And and then there are those that come to us by nature. Means are axioms or paradigms. So there are things by nature that we know. For example, we know 1 + 1 = 2. We know that two opposites can't coexist. These are facts we know just as being part of the human species. And then those are the frameworks, these rules are the frameworks through which we analyze information. Right? The information we got in part one, the facts on the ground, now are being analyzed through the prisms of those axioms that we are born with by nature. And then there are some other axioms, seichel nikna, which is acquired understanding. So it's not things that, we don't need any proofs. We all know 1 + 1 = 2. But then there are certain rules of nature, certain rules of physics that aren't that obvious, and they've taken years of human endeavor to come to the conclusion that this is the principles. And then from now on, we're going to use these principles to analyze information. But both of these things fall into the same category, that they are the principles through which we analyze information. But this is not our place to discuss this here. So again, there's two things so far. Chachma, wisdom, which is knowing the facts, just what is and what causes those things to be there. Number two is the prism through which we theorize and analyze those facts. And that is either through axioms that are inborn. We just know certain things as fact, and we just have the rules of nature that we have to operate with, or they are discovered rules of nature, and then we use those rules to analyze the information. That was 2 out of 3. Mehen, and another realm of the intellectual virtue is schus hatfuna, is the schus means like the merit, or like the how do they translate it here? They call it ability.
Sagacity?
Oh, sagacity?
Never heard of that word.
No. I think it's the ability.
Right.
Schus is like literally means like the merit. It means like schus hatfuna. To what degree do you have the capacity to understand? But taiva avon, and how good you have a handle and understanding on things. And this is lamad al davar, to be able to really get to the bottom of something, and to quickly understand it, below that much time, or in quick amount of time, and the opposite, or weakness in this realm, opposite to the 3 above, or you should connect them, or in the exact opposite. And those are the opposite of the virtue. So it identifies 3. Knowing the facts, the prism through which we analyze and theorize those facts. And number 3 is how quickly I can analyze this information. So I'm looking at these 3 when I was learning it, and I'm trying to see how I could marry this with the 3 faculties of the intellect that Chassidus describes.
Exactly what I'm thinking about.
Chachma, Bina, and Das. And
exactly what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, and I'm trying to I'm trying to figure it out, and I could not find it. I could not find the match.
I mean, if Chachma is the facts,
yeah,
and maybe B and C form the Bina.
Okay, so I went in a bunch of different directions, and I came to the conclusion that they're actually not matching at all.
Okay.
And I this is my reading of it, and I think that they're actually coming from 2 different angles. When Chassidus talks about the 3 elements of Chachma, Bina, Das, it's talking about the 3 stages in processing information. It starts off with the idea, Chachma, then it goes to Bina, the analysis, and then it goes to Das, connecting to that idea, making it personal. That's all a question of the system through which you process information. It doesn't talk to how much information I know, or what are the rules of understanding that piece of information, or how quickly I understand it, which are the 3 things Rambam does talk about. Right. So what that means to me is that Rambam is talking about the 3 ways in which we acquire knowledge, and Chassidus is talking about the 3 levels in which we process knowledge.
Okay.
And they're a bit different.
Yeah, it's different.
So they might converge in that, where Rambam is talking about whether a person can quickly understand things or take some more time. Okay, so that will help his Bina, or maybe help his Chachma if he's quicker or slower.
Right.
So,
but they're not moving in the same. Like it's not the end result is not the same.
That's right. The end result is not the same at all. Over here he's talking about 3 ways of processing information. You need the facts on the ground. You need to analyze them, and you have to have certain rules by which you're analyzing the information.
Right.
It's almost like he's talking about the parameters of information to some degree. Like he's almost talking about the parameters of knowledge. The parameters of knowledge is you need to know what the facts are. You need to know what are your axioms upon which you're going to build your analysis, and then there's how quickly can you do all this.
Right.
Or how adept are you at doing all this.
Right.
So this doesn't really talk about all that so much as talking about processing ideas to the point that you become one with them. So it's a little bit in different directions.
Yeah.
But I tried mapping them on, but I couldn't. Okay. But as he said here, this is not the main topic of this book. That he leaves for elsewhere. Aval but Milas Amidus, the virtues within character or emotion, morals, this will be found only in the realm of the appetitive, the part of me that's attracted to something or repulsed by something. That's the nature of emotion. That's where my moral character comes from, how much I get boiled up about something or how much I can control it, how excited I am about something, and the opposite. Now, he left out the sensitive. He said earlier that there are two places where the mitzvahs are. The emotional, be attracted to that, stay away from this. And then there is the sensitive, touch, don't touch. But they're very different, because the touch, don't touch, I can't change that either. I can decide to not touch something, but I can't change the manner in which I touch things. Whereas when it comes to the emotions, I can. At least that's the way that Rambam posits it. I will be able to change my emotions. Likewise, the faculty of intellect. I can change the way I understand things. I can gain new axioms. And elsewhere, he even talks about where a person can get quicker understanding information too, as he practices to, understand things of a loftier nature. But when it comes to the sensitive, the five senses, where does it fit into this category? Because it's in the realm of mitzvahs, because I'm told, eat this, don't eat that, touch this, don't touch that, look at this, don't look at that. But I'm also not able to change it in the same way I can change my emotions or intellect. So where do the five senses fall in here? And that's where he says, the sensitive part of me, my five senses, is in this regard. It's only a secondary, or like here they write subservient. It's like a stepping stone upon which I'm going to build my moral character. Meaning to say, as we'll learn soon, moral character, my emotions are riled up. So my instinct is run and grab that, or run and break that down. So that's my appetitive compelling my sensitive to go do something. And therefore the realm of the sensitive is only just a tool for the appetitive. Get that, stay away from that. Mm-hmm. And therefore it's true, I can't change the very senses. I can't change how I touch things or how I taste things, but I can certainly change the motor that's moving those senses to go gain or stay away from something. And therefore they're kind of being lumped together here, in that even though, so in a way you can put it this way, the do's and don't do's of mitzvahs are in this five senses. Eat, don't eat, touch, don't touch, pick up, put down, whatever. But then those do's and don't do's service to refine the appetitive part of the soul, the character, moral character of the soul. And this kind of builds to something we talked about in one of the previous classes, that in the Rambam's view, these levels stack above each other. So you have a healthy body, okay, you need to talk to a doctor, take care of that. But then on top of that, you'll control the way what you touch and what you taste and what you eat. And above that, you'll be able to refine your character. And then finally above that, you'll be able to refine your intellectual system. And here you can see this close link between the margish, the sensitive part, the part of the five senses, and what they do and what they don't do as a medium to gain mastery of the character, the chelik HaMas'ara, the appetitive soul, the part of the soul that wants things and doesn't want things and gets excited and is less excited. It's serviced by the five senses themselves, in that they act upon the emotions. Now, the virtues in the realm of character, Rabbis Ma'od are many. So when it came to the intellectual virtues, he gave us three: knowing information, the axioms through which you analyze that information, and how quickly you can process all this information. Now here he says, when it comes to moral character, there are plenty. For example, kazehirus, like being careful about things. Kolaymar, meaning to say, yirachet, being fear of sin. Nedivus, being generous. Yosher, honest, being straightforward. Anava, humility. Shiflus is another word for humility, but it's like being lowly, self-effacing. Istapkos, being content or happy. This is what our sages refer to as wealth. Ba'amram, in that they said, Ezeu Asher, who is wealthy, one who is happy with his lot. This comes later in Pirkay Avot itself. This whole book is an introduction to Pirkay Avot. And later in Pirkay Avot it does say that who is wealthy, one who is happy with his lot. And that's referred to by the Rambam as histapkos, being content. Gvura, strength or courage, amunah, faith, zolosim, and other such virtues. Chisus ze'achelek, and the opposite of virtues in this realm, is to lack in any of these, lack in generosity, lack in honesty, lack in humility, lack in content, etc. oy lahoisipahem, or to have too much of it. And that's an interesting part of the Rambam's version of building moral character, as we shall see, is actually to be what he calls the derech hamitzua, the middle way. Not too excitable and not unexcited, to find the middle ground. So if a person is too overly generous, he'll be taken advantage of. A person is too humbled and he'll be trampled on by everybody. If he's too much courage, he won't be able to, compromise for somebody else. So it's not that all of these things, because they are good, you must have them in their extreme. In fact, that's not the case in the Rambam's view. The person has to have the middle ground there. So to lack these things, that's no good. But to have too much of them is also no good. And considering that is going to be a big part of the exercises that Rambam is going to guide us in doing in future chapters. Aval but, hachelak hazon v'madama, the part of the soul that's digestive, v'madama, in the imagination, like never by Mila, there is no virtue of leprisus and no lack of. Right? There's no virtue to saying that a person's imagination is amazing. Just the way he is, his imagination is great. Or, look at this guy's got a great digestive system. There's no virtue or character there. It's just the way he was created. But we can say this person digests his food properly. No good, and you got to go to a doctor. Like we would say, this person, his digestive system runs well, or his digestive system is not functioning properly, or his imagination is not working, not functioning. His thoughts that are natural, that keep on running, is not going properly. Or his imagination does go well. This, I think, is the closest thing to a direct reference to mental illness. He's comparing it to food, the digestive system. This person's digestive system is working well or it's not working well. So likewise, his mind is working well or it's not working well. He's leaving this part of the uncontrollable part of the brain. The fact that my brain constantly is running is not something that's left to my decision or choice, right? My intellectual capacity is one thing, but then there is when my brain is not doing any intellectual exercise. It's just sitting around on the couch. Is it operating healthily the way my stomach is operating healthily when I sit on the couch, or not? And I think this is a reference, perhaps, to some sort of mental illness, and which would mean, and this is an interesting point. If I'm correct in saying that this is a reference to mental illness, then it would mean that a person can be highly intelligent even as he suffers from mental illness. Because there's two separate issues. He separates the two, right? There's the intellectual capacity that you can control. You can do exercises on your mind to gain mastery and getting better at understanding things and learning new axioms and all that stuff they talked about before. But when it comes to the imaginative, that part of the brain can be completely not functioning properly. And there's nothing you can do about that. In the same way you can't do anything about your stomach not functioning properly. I mean, you can go to a doctor, but it's not like something that you have free choice over. Unless you have, again, medicine to deal with it. Which is, if I'm correct, this is a very forward way of thinking about the mind, way ahead of his time. We're talking 800 years ago.
Right.
If I'm correct in this reading. But in this area, and if there's no virtue or not virtue, we're not going to say a person's more virtuous because his stomach is healthy or unhealthy. It's just the way he was born. And we're not going to say someone's more virtuous, less virtuous because of, if I'm right, he has a sound mind. His mental faculties are functioning healthily, or he suffers from some mental illness. We're not going to say he's any less virtuous or more virtuous. It's just the way he's created. But in terms of moral character, where a person can, through exercises, we'll learn in later chapters, refine one's character and get better. And likewise, their intellectual capacity, we're not in this book, but elsewhere discusses how a person can refine his mind to understand better things and to think of more lofty ideas. Those we can't say are virtue and the opposite, because those are things you can do something about. And this is what we wanted to discuss in this chapter, to identify what are the parts of me that I have no control over. And therefore, either talk to a doctor if you're suffering, but there's nothing you can do about it in terms of building your personality. And what are the parts that you can change? And what it comes down to is there are really only two things you can change. And There's really only two things you can change: your moral character and your intellectual faculties. Those are the two things the Rambam says you can change.
Mm-hmm.
In other areas, say the sensitive, you can touch, not touch, eat, not eat, but you can't change the way you taste or how you smell.
Mm.
And that system serves as a medium for building moral character, what you're going to touch and what you're not going to touch and what you're going to eat, what you're going to say, what you're not going to say. That's going to help build a moral character. And then the other part, which is the imaginative, even though the Rambam doesn't say so explicitly, but I'm interjecting, as we said before, that a person can decide what they want to think about. That's true, but not the uncontrollable part of the brain, which constantly runs. You know, the imaginative part of your soul, the fact that when you're sleeping, you're dreaming and your thoughts are always running through your head. You can't control that. And perhaps, maybe, again, I can't say if I'm right or wrong, but perhaps this is a reference to the state of a person's mental health, which is separate from his intellect.
Is it possible that the translation
Yeah, you don't have to.
Yeah.
I don't know if the translation has to be 100% perfect. There's a number of times where I've disagreed.
Because imagination doesn't seem to be the right word. If you're right in what you're saying,
yeah,
imagination isn't the right word. It's sort of like the physical functioning of your brain.
Right. So
imaginations, you sort of think like you do control your imagination. You know, you do can imagine things, so you do have some control over that. But the
right,
physical functioning of your brain, you don't have control over.
Yeah, so I'm dividing between, in other words, there's the imagination itself, and then there's what I'm imagining about.
Yeah.
So what I'm imagining about, I can choose.
Yeah.
But my imagination itself, I cannot really control. I can't change.
So like the what's going on in the synapses, you don't have control over.
Exactly.
That's why I'm thinking maybe the translation is wrong. I don't know.
Medama itself does mean imaginative, but as he explained in the first chapter, it's much more than that. It's constructing memories and deconstructing memories and comprising memories. So it's really the background of your brain functioning.
Okay.
Right. That's why I'm understanding it as the mental state of life.
That seems right then.
But I could be wrong about that. God willing, we get next week into chapter 3, into actual.
Thank you very much, Levi.
With these things. My pleasure as always.
So long.
Okay, be well.